Good afternoon, Morris Street women, the wonderful women of Morris Street. This is the next in a series of our celebration for Women's Day. This is one of those sister chat groups where we want to come together and just share our own experiences, thoughts, things that we think can benefit each other. And this is the first in a series that we hope will continue. But today we have the great opportunity to share with one of our own sisters her healthcare journey. Many of us have observed Deaconess, and I say that in all earnest, Deaconess Carol Richardson, over the years. And in most cases, we didn't know anything about what she was going through. But she had some healthcare challenges. And when I was telling her about self care and self love and what we wanted to accomplish in 2024 in the series for Women's Day, she says, I'm in. Just tell me what I need to do. So I'm welcoming to our studio Carol Richardson. Carol, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me to share this journey with everybody.
That is so important because the more we share, it shows that we care. And that's what we want to talk about today. So tell us a little bit about what your experience was, because this is really your time. I'm just going to interject a few questions here and there, but this is like an opportunity to share from the heart and out of concern, because we never know what anyone else is going through. There may be some things that coincide with our experience that we may be going through, but at the same time, it gives us a chance to at least start the conversation. So tell us what you were experiencing and some of the things that we may not have known about at the time.
Well, several years ago, I went to a doctor in Charleston and he diagnosed me with high blood pressure. And the question I asked, how long do I stay on this blood pressure medicine? And he said, a lifetime. And that struck a chord with me because I said, lifetime? And that's when my journey started. Even though I was on herbs for about 20 years, I realized that I needed more. I just didn't want to be on the blood pressure medicine or any other meds. So my journey started there, searching not only the herbs, but cleansing. And about 2 years ago, I got serious about it because it seems like my blood pressure would go up and down, up and down. So I realized that I had to do some life changing intervention. And that's when I started with the plant based with the herbs.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that because at various stages in our lives, and we want to obviously present a disclaimer at this point about making certain that you approach it with some decision, with consult with a healthcare professional, or as you venture in different directions on what those other options might be, that we can share those thoughts and making certain that it fits well within our space. But I can share with you specifically because I'm at that point where I have to consider other options as well. My blood pressure spiked about a month ago. And I attributed it in some way to stressors, daily stressors in my life. And I don't even mind sharing the number. My blood pressure was 190 over 100. And I ended up going to the ER and it did subside. And the next course of action for us was to slightly increase my medication. So it is working well for me, but at the same time, I'm at that point as you were to say, what are some other options that I can consider? So your message for me is very timely. So let's talk about how you approach plant-based and what were some of the first things that you considered when you started thinking about plant-based and how to implement it.
Well, I always read, I got books on high blood pressure. And that led me to uh, checking out some other avenues. And I went on YouTube. I want to be educated of what was going on, my blood pressure and how it read, how I would go about it. And that showed me that there are ways, there's different means to control your blood pressure naturally. And
Mm-hmm.
that's my journey, starting to read and go on YouTube and heard doctors. I want to be sure that I was doing the right thing, not on my own, but I wanted guidance to a person who was certified. So the
Mm-hmm.
doctors on YouTube, they were all medical doctors.
Okay.
So they started me on that journey or had me a path in order to do something about it other than meds. And that what led me to plant-based added with the herbs, because I was on the herbs, but it didn't do what I wanted to do.
Okay.
So I searched and they were telling me about how plant-based would help. And I said, okay, I think I can do that. So
Well,
that's what my journey was, getting
well, let's
educated.
talk first about when you said about research. So you started to read, you went to the library, or you researched a number of different books. You did your research online through YouTube, and you found credible doctors that were offering their commentary. So that's the first step in knowing the space that you're in and what resources there may be available to you. And then the second thing, and I heard you say, is that you talked about plant-based as an option and herbs. So let's talk about the plant-based first, and then I'd like for you to comment a little bit more on what the herbs would do as a supplement.
Plant-based, it tells you Mother Earth, everything that comes out of the ground, that's plant-based. So
Mhm.
that's where I started. I started my fruits, I started my vegetable, but I researched what was good for me. High blood pressure, because every plant-based fruit may spike something else. So I read what was good for me, and I found out certain herbs and certain even fruits and vegetables that help lower my blood pressure and other symptoms that I was having, and that's where I started. I
Okay.
did my search, and the doctors guided me. I
Mm.
called them and they answered. And I
Oh,
said,
so you
okay,
were able to establish a connection with those that you engage with online,
yeah,
and they were able to give you additional advice and counsel as well.
definitely.
Wow.
That was,
Wow.
I was surprised because a lot of times when you call, nobody answered. But
Right.
within a couple of days, I started getting emails and, asking me about my journey and what situation that I was on. And then they diagnose it from there, tell me what herbs that I should take, what plants are good for my body, because not only I was dealing with high blood pressure, but I had sugar diabetes also. So I have to keep that in mind of what plants, what vegetable to take. So they walked me through it, and with the reading, it helped me get where I got. And the weight just came off. The blood pressure started normalizing. It took a while
So let me
because
ask you this, as a preventive measure, how often do you check your blood pressure?
2 or 3 times a day, because
Okay.
I check it in the mornings. And then later on, when I ate something about 12 or 1, I may do that, and at bed before I go to bed. So I try to regulate to see if this herbs really work. Is this plant based really works?
And see,
So,
what we're learning is that number one, research is important, and
yeah,
I'm hearing that, and credible sources from which you're able to garner and receive that information. And then thirdly, that you are monitoring it, because that was the thing that was most important for me. Again, going back to that scenario or situation that I described earlier, it sort of spiked at that point, and it was late at night, and I remember that I ate some nuts like pistachios, and it
mhm.
could have been, and I'm saying could have been, a high salt content. So I'm aware of that now. There's certain things that I won't consume at various times during the day. That was a learning for me. But what you're saying is that you do check it regularly each day, and you record that information, because any journey that you're on, you kind of have to establish your baseline. So I'm happy to hear those various steps that you're taking, and then you consistently monitor the same way that you did before when you were in the discovery phase, because now you're in what I would consider to be a maintenance phase. Because from all indications, like you say, with your blood pressure, we talked a little bit about diabetes, but they're somewhat related in a sense. So let's just talk a bit about what the impact on your diabetes might have been because you changed your way of eating in terms of regulating your blood pressure.
When I first started out, it my A1C was 6.8.
Wow.
And as my journey went on, and I would regularly go to the doctor, it was a thing that I went to the doctor sometimes 2 or 3 months to check, to make sure that I was on the right track. And
Yeah.
it helped because I knew where I was. And
Hmm.
now from 6.8, I'm 6.0. So I know it's working. And the
Wow.
doctor, he didn't know all of the things we were doing, but in March, when that was my last checkup, he put on it, a great job. Keep up the good work. So I was elated. So that just gave me inspiration to continue to do what I'm doing. And that, I mean, I feel terrific. My
Well,
skin,
and
my
I know,
health.
like I said, we've observed you from afar, and I know that you said, a couple people came and said, "Oh my God, are you sick?" And you're thinking, "Not anymore," because you're on that journey to wellness because you've taken the time to do those things that are extremely important. So, I do have just a few more questions, and I'm going to allow you to share beyond whatever you would care to. You mentioned there's certain types of plant-based. So when I consider plant-based, that means that you are eliminating all meat.
Yes.
Are you still with any level of seafood? And what are some of the vegetables that work best for you in lowering that, or plant-based products, not necessarily vegetables, but anything plant-based? Can you describe that?
Yes. Well, I took out the processed food.
Ah,
You have to clean the inside out. So
yes,
that's where I started. I started the processed food, no canned vegetable. If I do it, I drain it.
yes.
So those are the things. No bread, and the only meat I eat is salmon
Ah,
because of
okay.
the omega 3. So I had to do a lot of things, and no sweets. When my journey started, I went all in. It was not easy, but I was determined to clean up my act inside out and detoxing. You got to clean it up. You can't stay where you are and expect your
Right.
blood pressure, your sugar to stay at that level. So I had to do a lot of things, but once I did it, and it got easier and easier. Now I don't have any taste for the sweets because I was a sweet addict. Processed food, cheese, all of that.
Okay, so let's talk about processed foods. And this is the list I know that's going to drive a lot of us crazy. We know hot dogs are processed.
Yes.
We know deli meats are processed.
Out,
We know bacon is processed.
out,
Sausage is processed.
out.
It's like, oh my God. And so, but again, you went cold turkey, like you said, you just went in hard to get all of that done. And I applaud you for that. I don't want to just miss this point to give you the kudos, because that showed how committed you were to the process. And that's the thing that we have to also stress about commitment to wellness and our overall health. And when you have the threat of what that could be for you, then you have to get into some type of psychological approach to doing that. So we talk about taking out the processed food. We talked about the sweets. Now, when you talk about sweets, a lot of people think, what if I get something that says it's sugarless, then that's not sweet. Can you elaborate or comment on that?
Well, it says no sweets, but they have some kind of sweetener in it.
Yes.
So stevia, what other product in there when it's in no sugar? It's some kind of sugar. So it
Mhm.
was water.
Okay.
I had to go hard because I didn't like the results when I first started. In order to be successful, I had to go all in, and it was hard. And there are days when I did cheat, but
Hmm.
I got right back on
Okay.
getting back to what I was committed to do. So that's what I did. And believe me, it was not easy. There were days when, I said, Carol, can you really do this? But I looked at when I went to the doctors, little by little, I was seeing improvement. And that just motivated me because I was going to the doctor like every 3 months,
Yeah.
blood work. So I wanted to look good. I wanted to prove that, is this really going to help me, or it's a fallacy.
Yeah.
So that's what I had to do. And I had to do it because I was trying to prove something to myself. Can you do it? Can you bring that blood pressure down? Can you bring your sugar down with
Yeah.
plant-based and herbs? So I'm still on this journey. And it's some days it's hard, but now it's easier because I don't have that taste like I used to.
Yes. Well, one of the things, again, to applaud you for your success to date, you look fabulous. And even within your skin, and you probably have seen the drastic changes because, as you said, what you put in is only going to come out. And in order for you to put the good in, you got to flush it with what is there and what's been over many years. And, we do have to make those adjustments or changes. So, research, finding the right person, connecting with your physician, because what's important to this conversation, we want to make sure that no one misses this, is that you did consult with your local physician, your primary care, whatever was in the list of those that care for you from a medical standpoint, and they monitored your progress. You continued to get blood work, but more importantly, you did check your blood pressure on a regular basis. You changed your diet, and we heard what you said. Everything that went out is like, oh my God, what are we going to do without such and such? But we can live without it, because the idea is that most people, and I've heard this said before, some people live to eat because it's like, oh my God, where's my next meal coming from? And then other people eat to live. And I think that's what I'm hearing from you, that you knew what you had to take out in order to live the lifestyle that you wanted to live.
That's it.
Because you got those beautiful grandbabies, and
Oh,
you're going to get ready to go on this amazing trip with them. And that's the thing that we want to look at, longevity and what's most important to us. Let me just do one other quick thing in terms of the herbs. And I know when I first moved to Charleston more than 20 years ago, there used to be this herbologist that was on East Bay Street, and I think it then moved to Spring Street.
yes.
So getting quality herbs and supplements are extremely important. How did you approach that to supplement what you were currently doing?
Well, the doctors that was online, they give you everything. They
Okay.
tell you that, either you can buy it from them or they'll tell you what to do. So when I couldn't get the herbs from them, I went to a local shop in Charleston and they had it. And as I grew up, my mom would tell me certain things, the herbs, because everything we need just about is in our kitchen.
Yes.
Believe it or not, if you do the research and they'll tell you the things. And surprisingly, I had most of the stuff in my kitchen.
Right.
So implementing that with some of the things he was telling me, it was easy. They said, okay, Carol, you've been using some of this stuff and you didn't even know it. But I had to do that, but I had to change my lifestyle also. And with those two things, it helped me with the journey. I can see now that it works because I didn't tell anybody what I was doing. I said, if it's working, they'll come to me. And that's what happened.
Well, I am so happy because, and I'll share, when we were sitting there during the deacon's installation, and we got into this, really was a light banter conversation. And I was telling you what we wanted to do. And you said, I'll tell my story. And I'm looking, I said, you know what? Yeah, right. I mean, because observing it from afar, but then you feel like you're kind of encroaching on a person's personal space when you're asking specific questions. But when you were so open about the journey, I was excited that we had a chance to share this moment. So, one last question that I have for you is about your support system. And oftentimes, when you're in a household where everyone may not eat the same way that you want to eat, how'd you manage that?
Well, I just cooked what I needed. I cooked for the family. And if there were anything that I wasn't eating, I just didn't eat it. And I did something differently. Or I would cook something and take it out before I put the other seasoning in. I
Yeah.
had a great support because my husband was on earth for about 20 some years.
Okay.
So it helped me tremendously to go in the cabinet and get the herbs, some of the herbs that he had, and some of the vitamins he had. So if I was on that journey with him, I probably wouldn't have been in the shape I'm in now. And I thought it was ridiculous back then. Why are you taking all these herbs? But
Yeah.
he just look at me and smile. And now 20, 25 years later, I wish I'd been on that journey along with him.
Well, you have a built-in support system, and we want to applaud Russell Richardson, Deacon Russell, because he gave you the impetus to show how it could be done. And I think that is also what helped on your journey. And that's the one thing that I want to stress too, having a support system or someone who at least has knowledge of what it is that you are attempting to do to give you that type of support. Well, I know the hour is drawing near. This is the first time for us to have this conversation. I would like to give you just a few minutes for parting comments or anything that you would like to leave because with our listening audience, because we're going to be together. You're going to be enjoying time with your family. But when you return, I would like to say that we're going to revisit this in some form to have that discussion. But just give us some parting comments about what you think would be important for us as we continue with this discussion about self-care. And we said before in our theme, kingdom building through faith and self-care. We're talking about building Morris Street back to the place that we know it can be in terms of a resource and a spiritual beacon in our community. And in order for us as women to be prepared for this responsibility, we want to make sure that we're taking good care of our temples that God has blessed us with. So we're prepared for the journey. Give us some parting comments or things that you think are important for us as we continue on this journey.
Get started. It may be hard, but you got to support. I'm here and other avenues are here. So if we do it together, we can accomplish anything. We are mighty, we are strong, so we can do it. God said we can do all things through Christ that strengthens us. Yeah. So that's what's my guide. I asked the Lord, Lord, you know this body. You know what I did with this body. So you helped me to achieve the goal that I wanted to achieve. And he did it. God first, family, community, and church. I applaud everybody who came to me and asked me what was I doing. So it gave me even more incentive to stay on this journey because I know we can do all things through Christ that strengthens us.
Yes. Well, thank you, Carol Richardson. We bid you adieu. We bid you safe travel. We are so much looking forward to continuing the conversation and learning more from other sisters within our congregation, because yours was a wellness journey based upon your need to control your blood pressure. Others may have other issues that they've encountered. We want to hear the survivor stories because you never know what the next person is going through, but having you as a shining example has been a blessing to each of us. Thank you again for sharing your story and allowing us to be a part of your afternoon today.
Thank you.